I thought it'd be easier if I brought my laptop to do it.
Finance public hearings and items.
It is 6:30. I'm going to call the Finance Committee meeting to order. First item on the agenda tonight is the annual review of the tax abatements. Thank you, Bill.
Good evening. I sent a pretty large packet out to you last week. Just a quick reminder, when we have tax abatements, new ones would get reviewed by you and approved by you. Previous councils would have approved other ones. So, but it's up to you to do the compliance piece every year. We have in total 20 abatements from over the years. 10 companies represent 20 abatements. I sent you their CF1s, I sent you a spreadsheet and the resolution. Jonathan, if you could go to the spreadsheet, it's pretty far down. Try to compile a lot of information on one page. The part that gets a little bit of question is the column 3, which is the year of the abatement. So all of these are within the approved timeline from council. It can be a little confusing. Like if you look at the first one, for instance, it says year 6 of 5 plus 3. So you would have approved, the previous council approved a 5-year abatement, but in that case, Myers Spring on the 2016-29 did not start until year 3. So they did not start their investment process until the 3rd year. So they don't lose that 5 years worth. It gets delayed. So that's why they're in year 6 of a 5 plus 3 years. How it works is a company cannot get an abatement unless you approve it before it arrives on their site. So they have to think ahead and try to get this thing in advance. If it arrives on their factory site before you approve it, they can't get an abatement. So that's why they do this way ahead of time. Sometimes they order a machine, kind of like your fire truck. You paid for it, you ordered it. You may wait 2 years. Same thing with equipment when it comes to factories. So that's what that year of abatement is. You can go up to 7 years on equipment. You can go up to 20 years on real estate. So the PP is personal property. If you see PPs on the left, and then the RE is real estate. And a reminder, the tax abatements are for manufacturing only. You cannot give a tax abatement to a retail or a restaurant. There's other things you can do, but you cannot give a tax abatement. So everything you see up here is for manufacturing, except Revere Homes, and we got that specially approved through a different resolution. As you can see in green, if they meet either the salary or the employee count, they pass compliance. You see a lot of green up here. I have on the far right column, they're in compliance. Yes, 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 all the way down. The one that is out of compliance is one we talked about last year. And we have a public hearing after this meeting to talk about them. As you can see, they did close plant number 4 last year. They thought they were going to bring a new line in there and bring some people back. They have not. So last year, we kind of gave them an opportunity to do that this past year, and they have not. Notified them that this will most likely get denied tonight, but you still have to hold a public hearing. Overall, the far bottom number, which is a positive thing, you will see that the numbers have gone up $54,975,000 in salaries, and the employee counts are up 201 people in aggregate from all these companies.
Bill, can I ask you one question there on the MPI? Is that negative 21 due to the fact that they sold off the heat treat? Was it the heat?
They sold off ABC Metals.
ABC
So MPI is, it's an acronym, but they're the parent company for Small Parts, HTI, and ABC Metals. So when they got the abatement, it was all 3 organizations. In the past couple of years, they have sold ABC Metals. It's owned by somebody different. They're still in Logansport. They're still doing well, but it came off their numbers. So yes, that's why.
So the other 2 plants, they've actually increased employment in probably.
And you can see salaries are way up.
Mm-hmm. Anybody have any questions for Bill as far as the abatement reviews go?
I've got one question. You say the salaries are up on all these?
The third column from the right is the net salary gain from all these organizations.
Who all does that salary include? It just
Everybody that works there.
Everybody that works there.
Line, executives, custodians, cafeteria, whatever. If they're employed there, it counts. Specifically for Logansport. You may have some corporate companies like a Tyson. We don't include their numbers corporately, just people in Logansport. So everybody's doing well, except until you get down to Matthew Warren.
Is Matthew Warren the one out of compliance?
Correct.
All the rest are in compliance with
Yeah.
the requirements that we require?
Yes.
Thank you.
You guys have any questions on this? Are we good to move this to the special council meeting tonight? All right, thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
All right, so next up, we have is the gal that wanted to talk to us about the transient merchant request. Is she in attendance? Okay, well, tell you what, we'll just skip right on by that. Since she's not here, I notified her, she said she'd be here tonight. Carousel funding request. I was informed that they wouldn't be able to make it tonight, so I told them we'd table their request till the next finance meeting. So the next item on the agenda is the Monticello Road paving project. And Tony couldn't make it tonight, but I told him I'd go ahead and present this since it's a request for some future paving. The Monticello Road, if you're not familiar with it, it's out. It's kind of like where the old bypass went, where it V's off there. That section is a local street now. It's in bad shape. In 2021, it had a road rating of 5, which is the middle. 10 is the best, 1 is the worst. And Tony says it's gotten considerably worse. But I think that was their last asset management plan that they'd had done. And he spoke with the utilities and whatnot, and he feels like this is probably the only safe place in town right now to pave, where there's not going to be any work done.
I was thinking of that.
So he would like to move forward with that request. If you look towards the back of your packet, it was unfortunately at the back. He sent us the revised numbers on that. The pavement project for central paving is basically $260,600 to repave that road. And if they have to do patching, the maximum amount, if they have to go deeper than the regular grind, could amount to $24,000. The milling is $6,500, and the pavement markings when the road is finished and paved is $18,875, which brings the total cost for that project to $309,975. $309,975. They have $270,000 budgeted that they can use, and Tony had requested that we do an additional appropriation out of local roads and streets for $45,000 to make sure they had enough funds available. And their current balance in the local roads and streets is $459,494.11. So basically, they have the funding in place, all but $45,000. So if you guys would like to move this forward.
This is only the westbound from the bypass up to 50?
Yes, I believe so.
Just one lane?
That little stretch along there.
You see, everything's been budgeted, they have the funds except for the 45,000.
Yes.
That'll come from us.
Pardon?
That'll be funded by us.
It's funded through the MVH and the LRS. They have $120,000 budgeted local roads and streets. They have $150 budgeted in the MVH fund, and they're requesting another $45,000 out of the local roads and streets.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone have any questions or concerns about that?
Is it still just a one-way west?
Yeah. Yeah. Not sure how long it is either.
Is that considered highway?
No, it's a local street now.
Okay, residential street.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Everybody okay with moving that forward? Okay. Okay, Jan, game courts. I got him out of kilter, Bill, sorry about that.
I wasn't sure where I was. Anyway, good evening, everyone. This is a request to help us complete the game court at the downtown urban park. We've always had a plan that this would be like, it would be a ping pong table that's super strong. Life-size chess, mega chess, I guess, or that's a better word for it. It's not life-size, but it's mega chess. And a foosball table and 2 cornhole courts as well. We already have the cornhole because we're going to use one set that, 2 sets that we've already got. So we don't have to buy any of those. We didn't have, fortunately, we had them made by Louthan, and we didn't have to pay any of the shipping costs for that, that's exorbitant when you think about concrete. What I'm asking for is it's called the Cornello Park Outdoor Ping Pong Table for $5,000. It comes from New Jersey, and there's no shipping cost to that. The concrete foosball table is $6,800, and I believe they reduced the shipping on that to $350. I just got that recently, and so the shipping is less. The mega checkers from Amazon is no big, not a big purchase, and a mega chess, oversized chess pieces. It's $450 for a total of $13,079. What I'm proposing that we use funds for that, or to pay for that out of my playground money that I have. Technically, this is a playground, and that's why I thought that this would be a good spot for this. This is more of an adult playground, of course, than a kid's playground, but it is a playground. And it is essential part of what we're doing with the outdoor, the downtown area so that it's being used on a regular basis, so.
Janet, what did you say the final total was now?
Well, I got 13,079, with a reduction of, what is that? $240 in shipping.
So the ones that you said in your email you had to check on, those were still the same price?
The prices were the same, yeah, but the shipping went down. Because the original one I was looking at had a concrete ping pong table instead of the steel with the galvanized steel. So both of these can be anchored to the ground, into the concrete, and we're planning to paint the chessboard ourselves. It's 16 by 16. No, that's not exactly right. I don't know what the checkerboard is right off the top of my head. But I figured it out when I was just doing it. So, and this is what it'll look like. The two cornholes will go along the edge of the sidewalk that runs along Melbourne. The ping pong and the foosball will go then next to that, and then the checkerboard will take up a big square close to the depot. So
where, if you want to go down there, let's say you get this equipment, you want to play ping pong, do you bring your own stuff?
well, and then we're working on a plan to, that would be the best, of course, but we're working on a plan to provide access to those things, perhaps inside the depot. We can set up a set of shelves or something with locks on them that we can, like a real estate lock, you can get the key through through a code that we can give them.
So like
From
the
the-
chess pieces and all that stuff, you're
right,
thinking
right.
would be stored there?
Right. Because there is a little bit of room there in the entrance area of the single restroom that we'll be able to set up some kind of a shelving unit there.
How much did you say you had left in your playground fund, Janet?
You know what, I forgot to look at that price. I'm thinking we had about $35,000 in there. Might even be closer to 40. I didn't look. I'm sorry. I was off today. And
Well, I was thinking the same thing. I just thought maybe you had the exact number. I thought it was 30-some thousand. So then are you intending to hang on to the rest of that for the Spencer
Yeah, like,
playground that
if
you're
I can
intending
buy one or two of the smaller pieces that are standalone for Spencer Playground, I'll try to get that done this year with the remaining funds that are there.
How big are these chess pieces, Jan?
Well, they fit on a 2x2 square.
Okay.
And so they're like knee-high. The king is like knee-high.
Okay. And what are they made out of?
Plastic, or, a heavy plastic. And in fact, they're set up so that you can put some kind of a sand or water in the base of them so that they won't tip over in heavy winds or whatever, so.
You have checkers the same way?
Pardon me?
Checkers the same way?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you, yeah, I don't know. I don't know for sure about that.
Okay.
They don't stand, since they don't stand as tall, it's probably not as critical, so.
Okay.
Would the chess pieces stay out, I'm assuming? I mean, because that'd be a lot.
No, I'm kind of thinking that those will be more like, especially when there's a special event down there, that we'll have those out so people can play without, getting them out or checking them out or whatever.
Back and forth. If
Yeah,
they're big.
yeah, there would be. So since they're such, I haven't got everything figured out about this, but I think it'll be used, because there's a lot of people that like to play chess around here, and especially if you're trying to teach kids about it, I think it's a good way to do that. So you've got something life size, I guess, like that for kids, so.
Okay, any other questions for Jan?
So you just want to take this money out of your playground equipment and buy this instead of other equipment then?
Yes,
It doesn't cost us anything else here?
it doesn't cost you anything else here. And I don't think it requires a transfer, because
No.
we can take, this is playground, so.
Everybody okay with moving that forward? All right, thank you, Jan.
Do I need to do a resolution or something for that, or?
If you would prepare something, yeah.
Okay, I'll work on that.
Will there be a cover for the foosball tables? I mean, something to cover it?
That's why it's concrete.
I know this, by the way I'm looking at it, I mean, if someone really wanted to, they'd come up and bust it down.
I don't know, but these are meant to be outdoors all the time. And I've seen the one up at Fort Wayne where they have theirs at their Promenade Park. They have that and the concrete ping pong and some of the other, I can't remember, cornhole was there as well, but they were all concrete and they were doing very well.
Do we have cameras there?
Probably, I would think so. It's where they launch off their canal boat to go down the St. Mary's River and.
Do we have cameras where these?
Oh, do we have cameras?
Yeah.
We can have them pretty easily, because we have them facing the crane area, where the cranes are at Little Turtle. And I would think we could probably put another one there facing
Probably.
the other direction pretty easily.
Yeah.
We do have some funds this year to do some more cameras. We haven't even got to that yet, so we'll get there. It's only June, right?
All right, thank you,
Okay.
Jan. We'll move that
All right,
forward.
thank you.
Thank you, Jan.
All right, Bill, you're back up. Threw him a curve there. This is the incentive fund requesting for Four Brothers.
Yes, when Kaufman Engineering left, Advanced Harness purchased their building on 25, the old 25, and retained a lot of employees. What they didn't do was there was some buildings left behind on Burlington Avenue. And it is a gateway into Logansport. At the time, we were talking to Jason Pine, who had a business called Four Brothers out in the county. And we were looking for a facility. We found one at 714 Burlington Avenue, which was one of the Kaufman buildings. Council a couple years ago helped invest into that. Jason put about $700,000 into that building, and it looks great. We had an open house for it. His business is in there. It's operating. It looks nice. I took Dave through it last week. The opportunity came for the other Kaufman building just to the north of it, which is 710 Burlington Avenue, and it looks about exactly the same as that one did before he fixed it up. So he has a proven track record. He's looking to invest another $700,000 into that building, and he is asking if we can assist with that too. We have an incentive funding line item for $150,000 we have not used this year. And again, this comes from payroll, economic development tax. The request is for $75,000 out of that fund to help revitalize that building at 710 Burlington Avenue, which would be about 11% of the total investment. He's going to make it look just like the other building. Again, he has a proven track record. We're looking to put 3 or 4 businesses into that building. Since he opened up the other one that he fixed up, he does now have 12 employees for an average wage of $25 an hour. He has a great online presence. He's bringing a lot of visibility to Logansport through this. To me, it's a slam dunk. I did provide a 38-page PowerPoint. Hopefully it wasn't overkill, but kind of gave a look at what it looks like and what it could look like. It is a gateway into Logansport that's quickly becoming our best-looking gateway into Logansport.
Now, is he going to be all right, Bill, if we do this as a reimbursement at the end?
We did a reimbursement last time. I think we wrote it last time as a and/or. He went ahead and paid for everything and we reimbursed it. I think he'd be comfortable with whatever. We tend to focus on the exterior and make sure the exterior looks nice. So your funding, although it would be a reimbursement for the whole project, we could pretty much categorize that for the exterior.
Questions for Bill on this?
And anybody's welcome to come, if it does advance to July 1st, anybody can come with me and look through both properties.
Yeah, did a great job with 714.
Mhm.
Is this manufacturing mainly? Is there like going to be a retail?
It'll be retail and fabrication, welding fabrication. The front will be 2 retails, but the back would be jujitsu and welding fabrication. So it's kind of a big hybrid of what's going to go in there. Now, you don't have to have just manufacturing for incentives. That was the tax abatements. So they can be pretty much anything.
Okay.
Are you comfortable writing up a resolution on this, Bill? Is everybody okay with moving this forward? Do you have any more questions for Bill on this? Forward, thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Okay. Number 7 was a transfer request for IT services. Tyler was supposed to be here to explain why this was needed. Since he's not, we'll table it.
I'm prepared to speak on it if you want, Dave. He told me what he wanted to say, if you still wanted to discuss it. That's up to you.
Well, go ahead, I guess.
He told me that the reasoning for that was between the time that the last budget was passed and where we're at now, the IT contract expired. I was trying to think of the word there. And we were facing security issues with some of our departments, leaving us vulnerable to hackers and whatnot. So it was essential that we negotiate a new contract that will basically actively combat that kind of problem. And it came out more expensive than the last one because we have active IT in the building every day now.
That's kind of the nuts of it. The $40,000 he had requested to transfer won't be enough to cover the overages that this new contract created, but it would buy them time. You know, I've mentioned to Tyler, and being new, they signed this contract without the funding in place, which is not the normal process for this sort of thing. You're supposed to get the funding in place before you sign any contract. So that's why I kind of wanted him here to explain it to you. He's the clerk treasurer. He kind of leads by example. I'll leave it up to you guys what you want to do with it. We can move this forward.
Do we have an attachment for it, or just?
All I've got is the green sheet that he gave me. I was leaving it up to him to explain it to us tonight.
Okay.
There was really nothing. I got that out of my mailbox this morning.
Anything that you could add, Jonathan, on that?
Outside of what I said, like I said, it wasn't a matter of, he wasn't trying to just go negotiate a new contract. He kind of came into it where it was expiring. And he wanted to be more active with IT protection within the city so we don't suffer, record loss or a department like the police department having some kind of major hacking issue that might lead to sensitive data being leaked. So he went out and negotiated this contract that, like I said, puts an active IT person in the building every day, which we didn't have before, to help us with our IT security.
But we will be able to see the contract before the next council meeting?
I would assume he could dig up the contract, yes.
Yeah, we can get the contract.
Yeah.
Are you trying to move this forward to tonight's special meeting day? Are
Pardon?
you gonna move this forward to tonight's special meeting?
No, the only thing on tonight's special meeting is the tax abatements. They have to be passed in June.
To move this forward, we'll have a little bit of time to see other information.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we can get the contract sent out to all you guys if that
Yeah.
would help.
Definitely.
Okay.
You know, we've reiterated over and over that you need to do things in the proper process. We have the same issues with a lot of the grants that we deal with. We find out after the fact that we've received a grant because they haven't gone through the grant administrator to set it up and let us know ahead of time. So we're always, we're trying to get things righted here and in the right process, in the right steps is what I guess I'd say. And I'm not giving Tyler a hard time, but the reality was he knew how much money he had, he knew how much the contract was, and they went ahead and signed the contracts and ran it through the Board of Works, who approved it without funding in place. So, it's as much on the Board of Works as it is on Tyler. They shouldn't have passed it without the funding.
Sure.
So, all right, we'll move that forward, and I'll make sure that you guys get more information on that.
Thank you.
All right. And the employer training grant, and I've got Ross here, and I think Jacob to help us understand what this is all about.
You definitely know more than I do about this.
Yeah, I don't know about the process you have to go through on the reimbursement, but this is just a reimbursable training grant through the state that Christian actually brought to our attention. There were some opportunities through the Department of Workforce Development to go and get some project management training, and he took the initiative to reach out to the folks involved, get the DWD's approval to go through the process, and then came to me asking about it. We have some training funding that I thought that would be a good thing for that to go for, and then after you complete the program and after 6 months, the money gets reimbursed to the city, as long as it's an approved program. And so I don't know what we have to do to accept it. We don't necessarily need the money to come back into our budget or anything like that. I think it's a good use of it just to, up the skills of our employees, and as they come to us with some opportunities to, get some more education and get better at their jobs, something that we jumped on.
So this training pertained to his job?
Yeah, absolutely.
So the jumble of paperwork that I hastily sent is just, since it's a grant, we have to set up a new fund for it by law. So the ordinance will be for a fund so that we can move their money into it, pay it, and then get reimbursed in that fund. It'll be just kind of a one-shot thing, but it still has to have an ordinance to create the fund.
So the request would be to move this money out of your seminar and trainings fund,
Yes.
Jacob,
Yes.
into the fund that we create. Then the payment would be made, and then the grant would reimburse the fund.
Essentially.
I get it.
Yeah, he tells me that, I believe him, and this is the process to go through. I was under the impression that we might just be able to pay it out of our budget and then just receive it back to the general fund or something, but I don't know the, tracking requirements that he has, and
Right.
so.
Unfortunately, almost every grant requires us to set up funds. I'm with you. I don't know why that is all the time, but I guess it's for tracking purposes.
Yeah.
Makes it easy to track.
It's a somewhat new thing.
Anybody have any thoughts or concerns with this?
Is Christian the only one who's going to use it, or can be other people can?
Other people, it's done for this year, but in future years, if it's available, I would hope that we can find other ways to take advantage of it, absolutely. And actually knowing that it's available, looking toward next year, it might be something that we can budget specifically for, knowing that we could get reimbursed back. I think it's a great program. It's, kind of very similar to, the internship program that we run that reimburses companies for that. I think, reimbursing, getting reimbursed for skilling up our workforce is only a positive for the city.
Okay. Everybody all right with this?
Yes.
Okay. We just need to know who's going to write up the ordinance. It has to be an ordinance since it's a new fund number. Who's going to write that up and prepare that for the July 1 meeting?
All right, we can get together on that. And
Yeah, I don't have a solid answer on that, but
we'll find a template for it. And
we will,
get
yeah.
something put together.
we'll certainly have.
Yeah, well, he
That's what we're doing.
added somewhat a template from one of the others that we had done, so, okay, if you guys will work on that and get that in place, everybody's okay with moving that forward? All right, very good.
Thanks, guys.
Okay. All right, well, I guess we'll call the Finance Committee meeting to an end at 7:06. And at this time, I guess we would have the public hearing for Matthew Warren. Is there anyone here to represent Matthew Warren? All right. Well, seeing no one here from Matthew Warren to discuss the public hearing on their abatement, I'll close the public hearing at 7:06.
Is that all you have, Dave?
Well, next is the special council meeting, and then,
Have that- you wanna
and
have
then the
one
planning.
after that?
That's the way it was set up, yeah. Yeah. All right, well, I guess I'll be the mayor today for a minute. I gotta hit my higher level card. All right, it is 7:07. I'll call the special council meeting to order. We could all rise and do the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Tyler.
Chris Howard. Present. Cameron Austin.
Present.
BJ Cox. Haley Zinsmaster.
Present.
Scott Peedy.
Present.
Susie Walmsley. Absent. Dave Morris.
Present. Well, I don't think we have any comments from the mayor tonight. So we'll roll into new business. We have Resolution 2024-129. BJ, would you like to read that for us?
Resolution 2024-129, resolution of the Common Council of the City of Logansport regarding continued tax abatements for companies in compliance with their statements of benefits. Mr. Mayor, President, I request we move this on for voting.
Second.
Is there any discussion, Bill?
Just for the record, the resolution that you're getting ready to vote on I drafted, and it represents 9 companies for 19 abatements. What's been omitted is the Matthew Warren abatement 2018-106. So it's not on the resolution. So if you approve, they have been omitted by me. And it is their last year, so it's not a significant, it's not a significant loss. It was the lowest amount for the abatement. It goes 100%, 80, 60, 40, 20. This would have been the 20% year.
Mr. Matthew Warren?
Correct.
Okay, and they did not ask for an extension or anything more?
No.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other comments? Call for the question.
BJ Cox,
Yes.
Cameron Austin,
Yes.
Scott Petey,
Yes.
Dave Morris,
Yes.
Chris Howard,
Yes.
Haley Zinsmaster.
Yes.
Any public comments? Please give us your name and address.
Councilman Morris, my name is Dave Kitchell, and my address is 1423 North Street, Logansport. I'm here tonight because, not because I want to be mayor or because I want to run the city, but I think all of us want to see the city run well. And I think you're doing a great task, and you're probably underpaid for what you're doing for our city. But I'm here tonight because of the dissatisfaction the public has voiced to me and publicly with regard to the attendance of the mayor, his involvement in meetings or lack of involvement in the daily running of the city of Logansport, not being in his office, not being at this meeting tonight, again, not being at the Veterans Affairs, the Memorial Day, Veterans Day ceremonies. And I'm here because in 1991, we had a similar situation. We had a Democratic mayor at the time. Kelly was city attorney. I was covering the city council. And what came of that was a lot of coverage into the issue of a city manager and hiring a city manager. And we learned at the time that Indiana law did not allow for third-class cities, which are cities Logansport size, to have a city manager. Smaller towns, Walton, Galveston, Onward, Kewanna, they all had them. Larger cities had controllers, but third-class cities, for whatever reason, did not have them. Well, that law changed, and a Republican, Tom Weatherwax, carried that law, and you can ask Tom about that. You're welcome to do it. And we also had more involvement from the private sector and from the Chamber of Commerce. Tom Slusser, the late Tom Slusser, organized something along with Dick Dilling called League 21. And that was more or less to start running the city like a business, like we should be running it. Since 1991, when that happened, and I wrote an editorial that ran statewide, won an award for that series that we did from the Society of Professional Journalists in Indiana. Fishers, Indiana became one of the cities our size that hired a city manager, and 25 years later, they are one of the 10 largest cities in Indiana. They're one of the most progressive cities in the United States, and they're in a great place, obviously, but their city manager now, in addition to that, they've gone to a mayor concept. But Merrillville is another city that's had a town manager, a city manager, and they've done well. What this does is it changes the dynamic a little bit. Does it get Mayor Martin out of office? No, it does not. He would retain his position as mayor, but it makes the city manager position accountable to you directly as the city council because you're not full-time employees. It could be a person that is a contractual services provided service to you. And part of the reason that I found ironic at the time when I researched this is that Indiana University, and I'm a Purdue guy, so you know if I'm touting Indiana, it must be pretty good, even though Councilman Morris has a flag in his mother's yard for supporting IU. But IU produces more city managers for other states than they do for Indiana because we just haven't done it. We've had a traditional model of mayors in what they call a strong mayor state. But what's happening here is this. I also, as mayor, was involved with the National Civic League, which is the oldest civic organization in the United States, and I got us involved in the All-America City program, and in 2020, we were a finalist for that. But most of the cities that are recognized as All-America cities are professionally managed by city managers from places like IU. Now, the county did have a county manager for a few years, and they had to do it out of necessity for their budget, because that was back when we had to really scrounge to make things happen. And later we found out there were mistakes made in how the state collected revenue electronically from corporations, and that wasn't necessary. But they were able to squeeze a lot of money out of it. They hired a fellow by the name of Charlie Mays from Onward, who had a lot of experience in industry, and they were able to do it successfully. They closed the county home. They did some other things to get revenue for the county. They got the veterans transported via a van that's still down there to do it. But they just tried to run the county like a business. And the thing about the city manager that's important to note, if you look at our utilities, about 40 years ago, we passed a resolution to start running the utilities like a business instead of something the council could dip into and take money out of for whatever they wanted, because it ended up we weren't putting anything back into the utilities. And so we went to a professional planner, a superintendent. We've had 3 now probably, and it's worked well for us. Our utilities are among the best in the state for the size of community. And we were in a position where a lot of people wanted to buy our utilities because we were having brownouts this time of the year when it was getting hot in 1979, and we'd have long periods with dark afternoons on hot days, and that was no good. So we decided to start running our utilities like a business, and we have what we have now. There was a time about 50 years ago when, before I was even working in the newspaper business, that we decided we were going to run planning and zoning like a business, but it was going to be nonpartisan, because we may have 7 new people, we may have a new mayor, we may have a new clerk treasurer, but planning and zoning has to happen regardless of who's here. And that kind of, like having Aaron Shaver here throughout one administration to another, and to work with a city and county, we can work together, and that function keeps on going no matter what. So a city manager for you, and I'm not applying for the job, I don't want the job, but there are people out there who could do the job and bring a lot of experience and expertise to Logansport to really put us on the map and to get us going. And it would make your job a lot easier, because many of you, and Dave is pulling a lot of weight here, are doing more than really what you should be doing as city council members. You're putting a lot of hours. Scott's working on the memorial home. That's not really what's in the job description for being a city councilman or woman. It's just saying, hey, let's look at what other cities are doing that's progressive, that's cutting edge, for fire protection, for police protection, for the internet, for economic development, all the things that we're doing, our ordinance review, what can we do to do that? And there is a kind of a fraternity of city managers out there, an association that can help you with that information, that can help you deal with that. But what we have right now is an untenable situation, and it's not fair to the council, it's not fair to Jacob Pomisel, and it's not fair to the 50% of people and more who did not want to retain the current mayor in office because of his job performance. So I have forwarded to Dave, and we actually talked a little bit at the start of this administration, but you've had a lot to deal with in the last 6 months, and a lot of you are new, and I get it, I understand it. But I've forwarded it to Dave here, the model city charter from the National Civic League, which is not something you have to follow, but it's a model of something you can use to tailor to Logansport to say this would work for us. It would be kind of like hiring a Bill Cuppy to do your economic development for you, which you already do. We've done that for years. But somebody that has really got control of everything to make sure that we're on the rails and we're not going to go off the rails. The state law in Indiana does not allow for a recall election for any party, any member of any party. And it also does not provide for any removal unless that public official commits a felony. Well, that may or may not happen, but it also doesn't provide for anybody that could be suffering from physical or mental duress emotional needs that must be met. The state law has not caught up with that. At some point, I think it will, but it's not there right now. But you guys have a lot on your plate. You got 3.5 years until the next city election, and I don't think things are going well with the current ship that we have. I want to see Logansport do well. I want to see you guys succeed. I don't want your jobs. I don't want your salaries. I want to see us do very well and do better than any other city our size in the state of Indiana. And, you know, one thing to think about is there was a time in the 19th century when Logansport was one of the top 10 largest cities in the state of Indiana. Well, over time, we have gradually slid further and further down that line to where now we're like 100th largest city in Indiana. And other cities are doing well. They're finding new economic development projects. They're finding new tax. And we're doing some great things here. Don't get me wrong. It's not all doom and gloom. But we're not keeping up with the rest of the country as a state because a lot of our cities aren't growing. People are coming in from Illinois, and I get that, and Indianapolis is a great magnet, but the bulk of our cities, and look at North Central Conference right now. Why is Logansport leaving? Well, a lot of the cities are just not growing. Muncie's having a heck of a hard time. They've consolidated all their schools. They don't even have busing for students in Muncie because of the tax situation there. Newcastle's left the conference. Marion is a 3A school now. They used to be the largest school in our conference. They're not anymore. Kokomo is going down. And we are now a 3A school. We used to be a 4A school. That's a concern. And the housing situation, you know, we built the 30 Revere homes, and our data then told us with the housing master plan that we could fill another 270 homes. Well, we've done what we can to build Lexington Village, but it's not going very fast because things are slowing down. So I think we need to think about a lot of things here. And I think you're good people. I don't have anything bad to say about anybody here. You've won your office fair and square. But if we're going to do right by our people in Logansport for the future, we have to think about beyond this set of people and beyond the next 3 years. Look at our utilities, look at our planning department, and look at what we are in right now. You know, we got to be progressive with what we're doing. And it's time to do that. So I'll be glad to talk with any of you individually, anonymously, collectively, however you want to do it. And I'd ask Dave to forward that model city ordinance to the other 6 council members, if you would, and maybe even Kelly if he wants to take a look at that. But essentially, we're running this city like we did back in the 1800s. We're not doing anything differently with the mayor and the council. And you've got a lot on your plate. You've got a lot to learn. You've got a $10 million enterprise or more here, maybe $12 million by now, to run. That's a lot of responsibility to put on your shoulders. And it's a lot of blame, honestly, that you don't deserve right now if anything goes wrong. But things like the coordination of paving our streets between the city and the utilities, that's a sign that we just don't have our act together here. And it's a sign that I get a call from people in other cities saying, what the heck's going on in Logansport? And that's where we're at. So I trust you guys to do what's right, and I'm just offering this information to you because, you know, we offered this up in 1991 as a good alternative, and Fishers has proven it's been a great alternative. Merrillville has proven it's that way. Lots of cities in other states. And there's a professional city managers association that's nonpartisan that keeps it moving. Democrat or Republican, it doesn't matter. It'll go forward. So that's all I have, and thank you for your time, and thank you for all you're doing. You're doing a great job for our city.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Any other public comments?
James Kahn, 913 Plum Street. I might have marked my calendar wrong, but were there going to be a decision made on industrial or agricultural on the Washington Street over where the old General Tire was?
You're just getting a little antsy. It's coming up next.
Oh. Okay. Well, just to follow up on what Dave was saying, I got a kick out. I don't know if it's true, but according to my old man, and he was born back in the 1800s, Logansport utilities paid all the taxes for the city. and we actually had a license plate that said a city without taxes. I don't know if that's true, but I wish somebody would look into history and find out, because I find it interesting, because they said that they ran it like a business.
Yeah.
And then after listening to him, that rang a bell what the old man told me. Anyway, I'll wait for the next meeting.
Hang on. All right, any other comments? All right, I gotta grab my phone here real quick. I forgot I was changing places. Oh. First of all, I noticed on the agenda, there wasn't a place for committee reports or anything like that, but I want to add that to the agenda before we move forward. We had the Finance Committee meeting this evening. We talked about numerous issues, with the tax abatement being the one thing that moved forward to tonight's special meeting. The other was that on June the 7th, council met in executive session to discuss, let me read to you what it is. Don't want to get this wrong. Could be somebody watching. Okay. Common Council of the City of Logansport met in executive session on June the 7th at 4 p.m. at the Logansport Public Library. At the executive session, the sole topic of discussion was the legal limitations of conduct for elected officials. So I just want to put that in the records, that that meeting was held. And I would go forward with the fact that we had anticipated making a statement. The council had asked me to take the thoughts of that conversation, put a statement together of concern to address the mayor with, but since the mayor's not here, we're not going to read that statement. I was informed a little bit before the meeting that the mayor's on vacation until July the 1st. So it'll be at least July the 1st before we make a statement on our findings. Any other council comments? Any miscellaneous business and any matters not already considered, including ADA Section 504 compliance or concerns? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Call for the question.
Dave Morris,
Yes.
Scott Petey,
Yes.
Haley Zinsmaster,
Yes.
Cameron Austin,
Yes.
Chris Howard,
Yes.
BJ Cox.
Yes. Meeting's adjourned.
7:28, the Planning and Economic Development Committee meeting will start. Call up Aaron Chamber, please. Just kind of review what.
Yeah, so this is for the old Trailerburg site, One General Street. We're looking to rezone it from light industrial to R4, which is high-density residential. My staff and I did go around to all the neighboring properties along the streets that border that property and put letters on all of the doors, and then we also sent out a press release about this meeting. Some people that are interested with the site and redeveloping the site are here. Also, if you'd want to talk to them, as well as Jacob. And I don't know if he has anybody about the cleanup that you guys had questions on. But basically what has come to the board is the rezoning of that property. I know there's a lot of other things that are going along with that property, but rezoning the property doesn't automatically give that property to someone else. It's just saying we're wanting to see residential there versus industrial there. We are doing high-density residential, and as I said at the last meeting, this is the reasoning being that it's kind of a progression. So from higher intensity of industrial uses that are along Water Street backing this property, you could provide apartments, then duplexes, then single-family, or what have you. So it kind of gives a progression of the different types of uses. And so that's why we're looking at the R4 on that back portion. The front portion along Washington is still zoned R3. Do you have specific questions on the rezone? And then I can open it up to the developers that are here.
I don't have any questions.
How many flyers did you put out?
About 113
Okay.
is what we printed and walked around and gave out. And then, like I said, we put a press release in the paper too.
Okay. Did you put anything on the radio?
Oh, it got sent out to all media. So it got sent out to the radio, to the newspaper, and to Cass County Online.
Great. Jacob, you want to say anything about cleanup before we get public comments?
No, we have David Scoville here from BCA Environmental Consultants, who would be able to answer, any specific questions on the cleanup and how that impacts the site and all of that. So as we get into it, he's here to get more technical into the questions that you have.
Okay. His name again?
David Scoville.
David Scoville. David, would you come up here, please? If you can state your name and address for the record, please.
David Scoville, Indianapolis, Indiana.
Can you give us a brief summary of the cleanup there and what's going on?
Environmental investigations are ongoing. They have been going on since 2014. We have done some cleanup. We removed several tons of impacted soils from petroleum impacts. And we've gotten that cleaned up to the satisfaction of IDEM. And we are removing the concrete slab. That is stalled out right now because of some environmental concerns that will be straightened out here shortly, within a couple months. And then we've got some surface soils that have exceeded for various metals that will also be cleaned up. Several methods is scrape and replace, cover, and with this development, we would be able to cover most of it without having to remove it.
Thank you. Council member comments?
But I noticed a couple of weeks ago in the Board of Works, you were putting in some new sampling sites.
Yes.
And where are they located and what's the reason for that?
We are installing one well along Washington Street. It is to monitor the groundwater contamination plume that has not yet left the site, but IDEM has directed us to essentially put it out there to make sure that it is not leaving the site.
Now, is this for the contaminants that were cleaned up originally?
Yes.
What are your thoughts about, I've talked to you many times, Dave, and I know you guys practically live over there sometimes, but what's your thoughts about One General LLC's involvement still in this?
We have been making progress with them. I know they've been slow to respond to a lot of things. Some of that has been confusion as to what their requirements are, and IDEM has been making it a lot more clear to them what they're expected and required to do. And as a result, we've been able to, obviously, we've picked up the pace a lot out there with the investigation. And the cleanup went forward. We did have that problem with the rail cars being in the way. But we did get that. And then they are looking to, move on. So whatever we have to do to get to closure, to get this off their hands is essentially, their objective. So that's where we are right now.
Well, back in November, they sent the letter, because, originally what the vision was for over there, and housing wasn't really the vision for there, but we came to find out that solar being back there and the size of it just wasn't economical for the city to invest in. Have they been satisfied with the concerns that they had in the letter? Did you receive a letter also that they sent out in November questioning the housing back there?
I probably did, but I'm like completely drawing a blank on that one right now. The most recent letter that I've seen has been telling them that they have to, address the PCB and the concrete.
Yeah. The last letter that I saw, and there may be some since then, was that they had 90 days to come up with a plan.
Yeah, that one.
Do you think that's a realistic?
No, item sets a 90-day goal for, a plan for everything.
Well, I only ask that because I've been around and I know how long it took us to get the other dig done.
Yeah, exactly.
And even after they get the plan in place, that doesn't mean they're going to start right away.
Yeah.
Well, I just say, my last thoughts are I appreciate all you guys are doing over there, and I know it's been a long, long haul, and
It has. But what we're here for.
yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
Any other council comments or questions? Jake, would you like to come up?
Well, I just wanted to see if you wanted to hear from the interested developers as part of this meeting, or if you were waiting until the next part to do that.
Karen?
I just do that. I think it was supposed to be together.
Okay.
Mindy just said it as a public meeting, but it can be done at this committee. But I just wanted to ask a question of you. To be able to put the residential in, will the site have to meet IDEM specifications?
The south part of the property already has been addressed, and there are some things that we need to address for the north half of the site.
But no one would be able to build on that until those items are addressed.
We would have to know what's going in so that we can design things around what's going in.
And you're going to continue to monitor, I know, the south end of that for how long?
I'm not going to put a date on that.
For a while?
Yeah, let's just say for a while.
Yeah.
Is this IDEM running this program? They're the ones hiring you and
No.
your company?
No.
Who is?
One General LLC hired us originally to do the ongoing investigation. The City of Logansport hired us initially to do the investigation, to do an initial investigation on the site back in 2014 using the EPA grant funds, brownfield grant money back then. And that's when this was discovered.
So the work that you described about taking the slab out and cleaning up soil was done at the city's
At the city's request.
request, and it's grant money from the federal government that's funding it, or?
No.
state?
The grant money is only able to fund the investigations. There are other grants and other monies that we are looking at to finish the cleanup.
No, I
We've been
would
getting
just,
requests from General Tire about what's going on and wanting our records and wanting records about our dealings with your company.
Yes.
Honor, I assume there's some litigation someplace going on that's not.
There is no litigation going on. To my knowledge, there's no litigation. We would have been notified had there been. They are requesting that information because the EPA grant investigations that the city paid for was not provided to them, and we were not asked, BCA was not asked to provide it to them. So they went and did essentially a FOIA request for that.
How far away are we from being able to build the apartments or whatever that Aaron's talking about under the zoning regulations?
Like I said, I would need a design in place to know what I need to clean up. A design being the apartments, what we're looking at, parking lots, stuff like that can be used for remediation. And without knowing what their plans are, I can't design a remediation strategy.
Theirs being who's,
The developers, yeah.
so if somebody comes in and says, I want to build some apartments, or I want to build single-family homes, then you come in and do a refined investigation or report.
Exactly.
Is that in process at
Yes.
all at this point? Are you waiting for direction from Aaron, or?
Yes to both questions.
Huh?
Yeah, yes,
Okay. So as soon as we get some guidance as to where to go and how we want to go, then you put your nose to the grindstone and get that cranked out.
yes.
The south end, are you talking about the parking lot or the side of the building? or-
No, the south would be the asphalt lot that's along Washington Street.
Right along Washington
Yeah,
Street.
it's currently 10 parcels that have already been rezoned. So those are essentially ready to go.
You got a picture of that? Okay, that's the old building. That's-
Cleanup now.
That's one general right there.
Would that be
Just keep
considered
the
safe for people to build there
Yeah.
and live on that property?
Yes,
Okay.
that is the ultimate goal, yes.
House is there.
Yeah, there's houses
He's
there.
there.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any more questions from the council? Aaron, do we need to open up a public meeting for the?
No, this is a public meeting.
We
so
can
if
do it
you
within the
just
confines of
bring
the planning and okay, very good. Would you like to just hang out and answer questions? You can sit there if you'd like, or you can turn to your seat, whatever you'd like. Make yourself comfortable. Any public comments?
So these are the people that are interested in the site, to
Okay.
know what needs additional work. They wanted to bring forward kind of their ideas for the site.
Thank you. Come on. Tell us your names and then just give us your summary of what you want to say, please.
Councilmember Oscar Gutierrez, Boundary Development. We're a minority and veteran-owned firm headquartered in Hamilton, Indiana, Hamilton County in Indiana, and our partner with Sullivan Development.
Travis Vinsel with Sullivan Development, housing developer, also located our offices in Carmel.
Okay, thank you.
The reason for us being here today is 3 years ago, we approached the city about this site. We understood the site was being remediated. It is something that happens more regularly than you think. If you're anywhere in a major city like Indianapolis, almost every development goes through a process like this, so this is not something that's foreign to us. When we first started this process, we started going through what it would look like to apply for tax credits to make this a workforce housing development. We held several meetings with Tyson Foods, who expressed their need for housing. They indicated to us that they were housing people working in Logansport as far as Fort Wayne, and they were renting out trailer parks in Peru, Indiana, and that they were desperate for additional workforce housing in the area. The former hospital CEO also expressed the need for workforce housing for his employees at the time. I understand since there has been a changeover at the hospital, but we believe that the need for hospital workers is still one that there is a need. The need for workforce housing is something that is common in a lot of communities across America today. It is something that a community like Logansport would benefit from. With me, before I get into the weeds of the process and what we're here for today, is we don't currently have the site. We still would have to go to the state to apply for tax credits to be able to do this. We are looking at two phases. One is a little under $20 million for phase one. The second one is a little bit over $36 million for a total of roughly $56 million in total investment into the area. Again, I'll turn it over to my partner to go through the details here, but in order for any of this to be real or have any chance at funding workforce housing in Logansport, you have to go through the state, who then approves the federal program to be here in Logansport, and in order to do that, it has to be zoned correctly. And I believe that your zoning director has voiced that by doing this, by zoning this today, it doesn't mean we can just go and start building. There's still a permitting process. There's still going to be an economic development agreement we have to enter into, and a lot of future stipulations. What we're seeking today is simply the step to move forward, to have the ability to apply. You still control a lot of things, but with that, I'll allow my partner to get into the details a little bit further.
Thank you. Thank you. Travis Vinsel again with Sullivan Development. So what we're pursuing here is low-income housing tax credits issued by the federal government under Section 42 of the IRS code. I know that sounds like a lot, but that is the largest funding source for workforce housing in the country. That source takes housing of individuals that earn between 30% and 80% of the median local income and provides rents appropriate for their income for each one of those levels of family services. And they do so by issuing tax credits, which we sell to investors, which allows us to have a lower mortgage on the property. And in turn, having a lower mortgage on the property, we can rent those units at a lower value and still cash flow. And that's the way the project works. So we're guaranteed to have those properties at a lower rate for a 15-year period. Roughly, rents in the 30% range, which is a family of 1 or 2 people, would range from $397 to $800 for a 1-bedroom, up to a 3-bedroom that would be between $500 and $1,500, depending on which income bracket you're in for individuals. And those would be at those discounted rates for a mandatory 15-year program, 15-year period. This year, 2025 tax credits, so tax credits that will be issued this year for next year, is issued through a 1-year QAP of the state, which is a qualified action plan, that is the guidelines by which the state determines which communities and which projects win those tax credits. This year, it is very, very favorable for cities like Logansport. They've written a QAP to benefit rural cities and small cities. Historically, Indianapolis has gotten a humongous chunk of these projects. And this year, the state has rewritten that policy, and it favors cities like Logansport and rural towns like Kentland, Winnemac, Lagodi, Jasper, Indiana. Those fit. We don't know what the QAP in 2026, which will come out in this fall, will be. It might go right back to favoring Indianapolis. So we have a unique opportunity here where Logansport is well suited to win these tax credits. In order to win.
Can I ask you a question then?
Sure.
Before you get too far down the road here. So they wrote this policy for 2025 and you're saying it came out last fall?
Correct.
So why in the world, if you knew last fall about this, why are we at the 11th hour now trying to rush this through?
So the QAP is supposed to come out in November. This past year, it did not come out till January. In January, we started our due diligence with the Bondry Group, looking at sites across the state to see what qualify for those, and we'll score. Because they don't say we're targeting Logansport. They give you a 300-page document and say, go through the scoring and see what you think will win. Okay? And so we did that and we identified this site. The first thing we have to do is then start going through our due diligence of, can we actually build something there? If we build it there, would the market withstand the number of units that could do there? If this was Winnemac, Indiana, where I'm doing a project, getting ready to start construction, I'd be looking at building 30 units because that's all that market can withstand. But we look at each community and say, what could it take? We've determined here there's a 2-phase project, the first phase being smaller, the second phase being larger. And we come forward with looking for a rezone. We talked to the zoning staff and said, okay, is it feasible to get a rezone on the property? Because what the state says is we don't want to issue these tax credits unless we know the project can actually happen, which means there has to be a clear path. One is the title owner, which is the city, has to have a ability to transfer this land and a willingness to someone. I think the city has a desire to use this land for something other than setting it is now. Second piece is you have to have zoning in place that could actually build what you're proposing to be in place. And then you also have to have an environmental review completed and a market study completed. We have had a market study completed. Market study says that the market will support the project. We have and been in consultation with BCA on the environmental, and last 2 weeks ago, we had a meeting with IDEM, talking about preliminary site plan, where we would put buildings, how those buildings would set, if we put them on the site. So we're going through that checklist of process. So yes, could we have come sooner? Potentially, but we don't want to bring something to this stage unless we know that it has a good chance of scoring and is going to do well. And two, we've checked most of the other boxes that we feel that there's a path here. So that's where we're at today, is we feel that there's a path for this project to work. We would still have a lot of steps to go. If we submit our application at the end of July, the state will notify us in November if we were successful. Last year.
What is the date that it's due, your application would be due by?
July 29th. If we're successful, they would issue the credits in November, notice of that, and that would start about a 6-month process where we would go through an actual design process. Not just a hypothetical, here's how you could physically fit the buildings on there, but we would go work with Erin and her department to go through the zoning code and make sure we meet the standards of the zoning code. We would also put together a economic development agreement, most likely with the city, that would state other things we might need to do. For instance, we might need to conduct a traffic study. We might need to look at other specific things. We would definitely have to make sure that we had a plan that IDEM approved of, because we wouldn't want to go to the next step. So we would spend about 4 to 6 months from November working out all those details. We would come back, if it required a site plan approval at the Plan Commission, we would come back for that. It would require IDEM approval at the state, it would require IHCDA approval at the state, it would require a building permit approval at the state. So we would go through all those processes so that we could then move forward with producing a project sometime and start construction in the year 2025, which is when the tax credits are issued for, even though we're in 24 today talking about that. So that's a high level of the process and why we're here today and why zoning is crucial. But we still have a long ways to go through the final process. What we have, we can flip through the slides, is a high level schematic design.
So let me ask you this. You go through all this, and how long do you have for the site to be ready before how long are your credits good for?
So we have to produce a 8609, which is a form that the IRS recognizes, showing that the project is complete within 36 months of issuing of the tax credits. And then you can get 1-year extension to that. So we could essentially have about 4 years out. We would not like to take that long to do it, but we could have the opportunity to do that. And then that starts the clock of the 15-year period by which they have to stay in compliance of the affordable housing reduced rents.
So if we were just to give you a resolution saying once we knew that the property was cleaned up, we would all be in favor of moving this to high-density residential. Is that adequate for you?
State of Indiana would say, no, we disqualify the applicant because they do not have zoning in place. They allow 3 mistakes on your application and some absolutes that what they call it, what's the word I'm looking for, Heather? What's that?
And Council President, I would also note that, and this is a question more for BCA, but the development would be the remediating factor. So when you say clean up, it's not, it's really remediation of contamination. So the development would be remediating a lot of that through, whatever vapor systems are installed for the apartments or the.
I understand that, but you still have to have the okay from IDEM before you can start anything.
Correct, but the bottom line is, the state would not even look at our application if we do not have zoning in place, a market study, and a phase 1, or in this case, more than a phase 1 environmental study on the property. They will not even look at the application.
Can I ask a couple questions from the citizens? They
Yeah.
were just wondering, What property is it you're talking about? Is it any of the houses that are existing?
No.
Which I know it's no, but you may want to
Yeah.
just point
So-
out what you're talking
so
about.
we're just-
And just a second, real quick. Second is they were wondering what 30 to 80, like that price range of people that could live in these apartments. I don't know if you have that information yet or not. But.
Heather, could you see if you could look up what 30 to 80% BMI is? Or what the median AMI is?
And any resident can live there, but the priority goes to those residents. So assuming that everybody in Logansport is above the median income, which I believe for Indiana is somewhere around 60,000. So it would be, and I'm guessing it's probably, these would be catered for people that are making 30,000 would be the 50% threshold. And, somewhere lower than that for the 30% threshold. So you do have to pay rent. You do have to have a job. It's not free housing. But the rent will be determined based on the income of individuals. We still have to provide.
Now, don't they break that down to where you have to have like so many in the 30 bracket, so many in the 50?
Correct. So many in each bracket. However, individuals, once they are in the property, can move between brackets, and they have to exceed the upper limit by like 15% before they have to move out. So you do some shifting in there as people progress. So it varies on the size of household, but a 4-person household, the 50% median income is $40,550, and the 30% income would be $31,200, and the highest would be 80%, which would be $64,900. So a family of 4 making between $31,200 and $64,900 would qualify to live in this property, in these 2 phases. I think a lot of the concern that the council may have about cleanup, traffic, design, those type of things could be handled in the development agreement that would come before the transfer of the property would come. So that if we were successful in receiving the tax credits, we would have to enter into some type of an agreement before the land could transfer, and that would be a development agreement that would state certain specific hurdles had to be met or specific standards. IDEM approval then, while it was a given that we can't start building and release from the state with IDEM, the council would have assurance that in that development agreement, the land's not going to transfer until there is a sign-off as part of that agreement that comes back to you that says, this is how we met that standard. Here's how we met other standards. I'm just throwing out as a suggestion to make sure that some of the concerns of just zoning it could still be met, if that makes sense.
Well, I get it. For me, I guess one of the questions that I still have, and I know Aaron and I have talked about this also, is, I mean, you guys are right here ready to apply for these subsidies or whatever you want to call them, and I mean, we have to put out some kind of an RFP, request for proposals. We can't just say, here you go, you get this piece of property.
That is something that we, unfortunately, our attorney is actually sick today, so the missing piece for that information is not here, so I'll do my best to address that. You are correct, you can do an RFP to dispose of the land, but you also have the ability to deed the land to your local CDC, which would be Bill Cuppy's organization. So the town or the city can enter into an agreement with Bill Cuppy's organization, and then Bill Cuppy's organization can then enter into an agreement with a developer. And it could also be done via RFP, but there's many different ways to do it. Again, we apologize, our attorney fell ill today.
So you've had discussions with Bill about this?
Assuming, yes, and assuming that council will support it, I believe that they will support it. Cuppy, would you like to address it?
Initially, it was Dennis Hoff proposed beginning to use them on other things. The environmental thing was we talked about.
I need to make sure that Clito doesn't get in a position where we own a property, you give me a property, that tax credit doesn't come through, I have a property that on Charlotte side, and then you don't want it back. So I gotta make sure that that's preventable. Their attorneys said that there's probably a way, there is a way to develop an agreement that would go to us if they got their credits. So Dennis Houghton's reviewing that to make sure that it would be okay for us to execute an agreement. So it's kind of twofold. That was my first hurdle, was if Dennis says it's okay, then I'll go to my board and see if that's something they want to do. And then if the city council finds that this is a product that they want, then we're on board.
He's done other agreements for us for other developments. Mr. Rotten?
Has he done other agreements for you?
Yeah, he's done a lot of things. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, he's done a development agreement that
Correct.
these guys are talking about having. We did that, I think, with a new structure going in.
Correct. Yeah, that's a different piece. The economic development agreement, which they're speaking of, is a completely different piece. They're needing a site control. If they do get awarded, then they would need the economic development agreement. We would work on last or next. But it comes down to what does everybody want? If this is something that everybody wants to move forward with, then we'll see if our company can intervene and get that thing to happen.
I thought that we were told the city owns it, so nothing can be built there without city council approval. But if we're giving it to someone else, then we don't have that, we're giving away that approval.
No, we would be giving it to us. We're not physically going to own it. This agreement would be if everybody agrees to it and they're awarded, it would go from our organization, simultaneous closing from you to them.
Subject to a development agreement that made sure the city got what they wanted to get in it.
You would determine all the factors of what you wanted to see there. For example, earlier today, speaking to your zoning, they mentioned a connection to the northern.
Out to waters.
And so things like that would be things that the council would then have the input to say, we want to see things like that. And I mean, that's an example. But there's other things that I'm sure you'll think about that you want to see happen, that you'll want to see to approve it. So
The agreement goes with what we say we want on that property, correct?
more or less.
Yeah.
Be kind.
Yeah, so that's
Okay.
what I was
Local
talking
statutes.
about our last meeting, is that you still own the property, so rezoning it doesn't change anything. When you would actually give an agreement, whether it's through RFP or through Bill Cuppy's organization, at that time, you would specify what you would want to see happen. Do you want a traffic study? Do you want this connection to Water Street because of traffic flow? What are the yes, we are fine with that number of units, et cetera, et cetera. Those are things that could be written in the agreement or in the RFP, whichever way you do it.
Okay.
If I can speak briefly to the RFP, as someone that looks at a lot of RFPs that are out there, I would never submit on this because I don't know what the zoning is going to be, and I'm not going to give any ideas to all the competitors because an RFP, as soon as I provide it to you, becomes public information. So I wouldn't never submit on a project that had no zoning in place and no specifics on, we want 20 houses, we want 10 apartment buildings, because I would just be giving ideas to everybody else to go look at. And that's not what I'm in the business of doing. I'm in the business of providing quality housing in communities that need and want quality housing. So yes, that's an option to go to, and that's a little bit easier when it's an industrial property you own and you know you want a factory to come in there, so you give out RFPs to see who might spend that, and want to do something there. But on a project like this, it needs coordination between environmental, city, and a project like this, I'm going to look to where I can provide a quality housing project and not give my ideas away in a long process that might not end up with the best of all ideas or input from everybody.
Essentially, where Clito is, our organization, Full disclosure, I was sent an email over the weekend to review some documents. I haven't. It was just this weekend, and those were sent to Dennis Sutton. I think the way it would work from our organization is if we get the clearance from Dennis Sutton and my board, we're just the vehicle. If your group and the public hearing comments that residential is the way to go, and you're comfortable with this housing development that's here in front of you, we will provide what we need to do to make that happen. And that's essentially where we're at. What happens if we go down this road and we get to the point where you guys are ready to start putting your plan in motion, and the demands that you want from the city as far as financial or whatever are more than we're willing to put out? Where does that leave us? Because I know at some point, all the rosy stuff will go away, and you're going to say, we need this, 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 and this. So what happens then?
That's a fair question. And in order to qualify for the state tax credits, they do require for the city to have local participation. And rather than asking you for you to write us a check, which we will not do, we will not ask you to give us TIF. We are just simply asking to enter into a payment in lieu of taxes, which would be reducing the tax liability, and the payments that we would make back to you, you could use in any way, shape, or form that you see fit. And if you want to do a pilot.
Yeah, we would look for a pilot, which is payment in lieu of taxes, where we would still pay some payment, but not our full assessed payment value, and over a period of time. Usually that's a similar period as the requirement.
You're talking about an abatement, basically?
It's essentially an abatement, and we get to count that. And we usually do it over the same period of time that the rents are restricted. You could also look at other mechanisms that are out there. We would certainly look at all tools in the toolbox and make sure the city was good with the package we put together. There might be some value in the real estate that could be claimed as that. Again, that's the value at the time it's transferred, which, given that there's some environmental concerns, not a whole lot maybe of value there, but there's some value there.
I figured after Dave got done with it, it'd be worth gold.
Well,
I can't promise gold.
but it also depends on what period in time that happens. I mean, if you transfer it before today, that's a different value than when he's done. But we could also look at other funding sources that are out there. We can also look at other grants. If ready money was available, that could count towards that. So we would explore all those, because that's what we do, to bring a package that made sense. In the event that a package didn't make sense and we were awarded tax credits, we would probably really scratch our head really hard trying to figure out a way to bring this kind of project to the city. These tax credits don't come along very long, and if you were able to get one awarded to Logansport, we surely would try to fulfill that agreement with the state and the federal government to the best ability.
We have had conversations with the Indiana Economic Development Corporation. As you're all aware, there has been an election where there's going to be new government coming in, and it's becoming more of a lame duck administration. But we have had conversations with the current Secretary of Commerce and his chief of staff about this specific development potential for either writing funds or redevelopment tax credits, which would be our first go-to for